What's going on, everybody? We are finally here. Week 1 of the NFL season is upon us. I've been waiting all offseason making videos, and I just cannot wait to watch my team on Sunday. The first game is tomorrow night, Thursday night, Lions at Chiefs. So that's why I'm releasing this video. I'm going to be doing this for every single week throughout the season, so I can't wait. I'm also going to be doing my prediction videos on every Friday for the season, so we have a lot in store for this 2023 season. I'm excited. I hope you guys are as well. Let me know who you're rooting for this NFL season, who you're a fan of down in the comments below, and let's get into it. Starting off with the Saints, I have them as potential wild card. They're borderline playoff team. I picked them to win the NFC South in my prediction video. I just think they're the best quarterback. They upgraded quarterback massively with Derek Carr. I know a lot of people aren't on the Derek Carr bandwagon. I still think he's pretty good. He's at least better than the other quarterbacks in the NFC South, which is a massive advantage for them. I like their weapons. Chris Olave, I think, is going to be insane this year. I think he's going to have a big year. I know the defense is aging, but this is just for the season, and I have them as potential wildcard teams. But the South is really toss-up between three teams, so I think they can make the playoffs, but they have to win the South. Dolphins, I'm going to say they're contenders. I love this Dolphins team. They looked so good while Tua was healthy last year. I know Tua's health is, that's pretty much the only question mark. And I'm not going to predict injuries. I'm not going to keep him out just because I'm penciling in a Tua concussion. I'm not going to do that. I feel like that's not right to rank teams based on potential injuries. But this team's stacked. They're so good. And I know Ramsey, I don't know how long he's supposed to be out for. I hope he's there pretty soon. But this team's so talented, especially on offense. And in today's day and age of NFL football, offense is going to win you a bunch of games, and I have them as contenders. Ravens, I'm going to say a playoff team. I just don't think they have the talent to win the Super Bowl, although I do think they're going to make the playoffs. This team made the playoffs without Lamar for half the season last year, and they're adding Lamar. They drafted a wide receiver in the first round. They got Odell Beckham. I just think they're really good. I do know, I can't remember the corner. I think one of the corners got hurt or something. This team's talented. Lamar's so good. I'm one of the bigger Lamar fans, and I think he's enough to carry you to the playoffs as long as he's healthy. Once again, I'm not penciling in a Lamar Jackson injury. So I have the Ravens in the playoffs this season. Bengals, contenders. Their offense is so good. And like I just said, same reason with the Dolphins. Offense wins you a lot of games in this league. I really don't believe in the defense wins you championships anymore, especially after last year's Super Bowl. They're just so talented. And Burrow is that guy. I think he can win you a Super Bowl. They were just in it 2 years ago. They just lost, on a game-winning or losing field goal against the Chiefs last year in the AFC Championship. I expect them to be in the AFC Championship again, or at least fighting for it this season. Broncos, I have them missing the playoffs. The AFC is so competitive. And they play the Chiefs and the Chargers. I just don't see them making the playoffs. And if they do, it would be a wild card. This Broncos defense is really good. If they were in like the NFC South, I would have them winning the division, making the playoffs, but they're not. I just don't see them as a top 7 team in the AFC. So I just can't have them in the playoffs. The Giants, potential wild cards. I don't see them winning the East. They're the third best team in the East. And Washington, I like Washington too. It's a tough East. You might get 3 teams from the NFC East again. The schedule's harder than it was last year. Last year they had a cakewalk schedule as the entire East did. So I'm going to have them in potential wild card. I do think they got better, but their schedule got harder. It's going to be tough, but I think they can do it. Vikings, potential wild cards. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year. And last year they were kind of fraudulent. I picked the Giants to beat them in the playoffs, even though they were a 3 seed. I just didn't think they were that good last year. They got kind of outclassed by really good teams, except for the Bills game was really good. An outlier. But I had the Lions winning this North this season. But I do think the Vikings make the playoffs as a wild card team. So I'm tempted to put them in playoff team because I think they're a playoff team. I really do think they're a top 7 team. Actually, I'll put them in playoffs because I do think they're a top 7 team. Where the Giants, I'm not sure of. I do think the Vikings are more talented, especially on offense. So I'll put them in playoff teams. Rams, I I'll put them in potential wild card. I know last year was really bad. They kind of sold their whole team to win the championship, which is it makes sense. I'm glad they did it. But Donald was hurt, Cooper Kupp was hurt, Stafford was hurt. I think they're all healthy this year, except Cooper Kupp just re-aggravated his hamstring. But I think he'll be fine this season. Once again, I'm not going to pencil in injuries, but if they're all healthy, I think Sean McVay is top 5 coach in this league. I think they could scrape by in the NFC in the wild card. I really think they can. Once again, the NFC is not that competitive. I think the Rams are going to be better than they were last year. I think they won like 5 games last season. I don't know. I believe in those 3 core players and then Sean McVay. I think they could maybe scratch their way into the playoffs. The Bucks, mediocre at best. I'm not really high on this Bucks team at all. They're led by Baker Mayfield, and I don't think that lasts very long, which will then bring in Kyle Trask, which that I don't see going too well. I do somewhat like their team, although I do know they lost, was it Jansen or their center, or one of their linemen they just lost. I actually think they lost 2 linemen before the season started. Mike Evans is awesome. He's borderline Hall of Famer. Chris Godwin's still good. I just don't see them getting into the playoffs. I don't like the team led by Baker Mayfield. Lions playoff team. I think they're a top 7 team in the NFC. I actually think they're a top 3 team in the NFC, top 4. But because they're going to win their division, I think they'll be top 3. Because I think the NFC's Cowboys and Eagles are ahead of them. So are 49ers. But I have them in the playoffs this season. I actually have them winning the NFC North this year from my prediction video. I just think they're so talented offensively. They just got Jahmyr Gibbs as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown's really good golf. I do like Dan Campbell. I just think they're trending up. They got a big game tomorrow night that's going to show us if they're ready for these big primetime games, because they haven't been in a lot of them. Last year they played pretty much all 1 o'clock Sunday games. Haven't made the playoffs in years. I'm excited to watch them this season and see what they're like when the lights are the brightest. But I'm going to have them in playoffs. Bears, I'm missing the playoffs. I don't think the Bears are going to be very good. I have 2 playoff teams in their own division, which is going to make it tough. They did get better this offseason. Like, I want to put them in potential wildcards, but I just don't think they're going to be able to make the playoffs. I just don't see it. I think Fields should get better this season. DJ Moore's a big upgrade. You just got yourselves a left tackle. Were they the ones? I forget who they drafted at 10 overall. They did draft a lineman, though. I don't know how he'll turn out. It's a big question mark, but I can't put him in the playoffs. San Fran contenders. Their team is stacked. They're probably the best roster in football. Just depends on their QB health. They never seem to have their quarterback healthy. Brock Purdy's got another year under his belt, a whole offseason. He's getting healthy. I actually expect them to get the 1 seed just because the Eagles and Cowboys have a harder schedule than the 49ers do. And they actually play the Eagles at home, so that'll be good for them. They should win that one. So I think they get the 1 seed, and they're probably going to be in the NFC Championship. Like that, it'll be, what do they got, 4 in like 5 years or something. It's a very good team, and I expect them to be in the championship game. Eagles, same thing. Top 3 rosters in football if they stay healthy. They just got a lot younger on defense, which I don't think is a bad thing. They're inexperienced. And the tough part of their schedule really comes after week 8, after the bye week. Lost both coordinators, but I think one of them is a plus for them to lose Gannon, but losing Steichen's big. I don't know how they're going to start off slow, I think, just because they do have a bunch of new guys, but it's still the same core. You still have all your vets. You still have your quarterback, your weapons. They're still going to be good. I think they're going to... I actually had the Cowboys beating them in the NFC East, so I have them being a 5 seed this year, but I would still have them as my Super Bowl favorites. Raiders, I don't see the Raiders. I want to put them in mediocre, but they have a lot of talent in Jacobs and Devontae Adams. But I just don't see this team. It's the Raiders. I don't see the season being very good for them. There's this whole Chandler Jones, or is it Chandler Jones? I think that's his name. Other defensive linemen not being allowed in the building. All this drama. Garoppolo, I guess. I don't see Garoppolo playing 17 games. And if he does, I don't see him playing 17 games very well. Especially in the AFC. They're not even a top 10 AFC team. I expect Devontae Adams to be traded at the trade deadline. I just don't see it being a good season for the Raiders. Green Bay. I have them as potential wild card. I do kind of like this Green Bay team. I think they're better than the Bears. I think they could maybe beat the Vikings out. I don't know. I think they could maybe make the playoffs just because I think it's kind of almost a coin flip between them and the Vikings. Jordan Love, I don't know what Jordan Love is going to do. I have no idea. He hasn't played many snaps, but he's been in the league for years. He'll be better than a rookie would just because he's been in the league for so many years on a winning team. But I'm not going to proclaim him as some Pro Bowler already and put him in the playoffs. I got to see it first. But I would not sleep on the Green Bay Packers. Washington, potential playoff. I'm not going to sleep on Washington either. I really like this team. The defense is stacked with it. Like, not a lot of people ignore the Washington Commanders just because of their drama off the field in the front office with Dan Snyder. They haven't had much luck at quarterback. Like, Taylor Heineke's been their best quarterback last couple of years, which is awful. Sam Howell looked good in preseason. A lot of them are raving about it. Their offense is good. They have Terry McLaurin, Brian Robinson, Jahan Dotson. They have a good team in Washington. It's just they have a hard division with the Cowboys, Eagles, and Giants. I think they're on the same level as the Giants. A lot of people forget last year, the Washington Commanders, I think, were favored over the Giants through like 13 weeks to make the playoffs, and then New York won the Sunday night game in Washington or Saturday night game. I was actually there for that game. Drove all the way down to Washington to watch that game. My buddy works for Side Tickets. But they were right there with the Giants. They're well coached. I think they can maybe make the playoffs this year. Cardinals going to get them one overall pick. I love the memes about the Cardinals, and it's get ready for Caleb Williams. It's Caleb Williams. Hold up, let me look up what his name is. Yeah, I don't know what just happened to me. I for some reason thought his name was maybe not Caleb Williams, but anyway, they're going to get them one overall pick, and they have the Texans' first overall pick. So they have two chances at this first overall pick. I think they're going to get it super easily. They might even have the first and second pick and get Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. We'll see. Steelers. Potential wild card. Sort of the same thing with the Packers. I think Kenny Pickett got better. This team's good all around him. The defense is going to be good. Hopefully TJ Watt's healthy. Very good defense. There always will be. I think Tomlin's guaranteed at least 500 as he has been his whole career. I just don't think you could write them off. They are in a tough AFC North division, but it's still the Steelers. Like, I think there's a chance if they upset like 2 or 3 upsets throughout the season, and they're going to find themselves in the playoffs as a wild card team. I wouldn't count them out. Bills, Super Bowl contenders. I know a lot of people are kind of dogging on Josh Allen because of last season, his turnovers, and they lost to their loss to the Bengals was pretty rough. It's still Josh Allen. He's so good. I would say he's the second best quarterback in the league. His ability to run is insane. He's so big. He's phenomenal arm. This Bills defense is also stacked. Like, it is not just Josh Allen carrying this team. Their defense is phenomenal. Hopefully Von Miller's healthy. I know he's on the PUP list, so he's out till at least week 4. Their safety tandem's the best in the league. They still have Tre'Davious White. I mean, their team's insane. They still have Stephon Diggs, Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. Stacked team. I expect them to be competing for the Super Bowl next year. Falcons. I'll say potential wild card team. Their defense is pretty good. They just upgraded. They just got Jesse Bates in the offseason. They also just drafted Bijan Robinson, who I think is going to be phenomenal right out the gate. Kyle Pitts is coming off of a big injury, so hopefully he's healthy this season. Drake London is going to have a big year, I think. It's all depends on Desmond Ridder. I don't know how Ridder's going to be. If Ridder's is just average, I think they are going to win the division. It's just I can't pencil him in to be like a top 15 quarterback. I don't know what we're going to get from him, but this team is very talented on offense for him to succeed. And I think there's a good chance they're in the playoffs. Seahawks, they're so good. I do know JSN just got hurt. He had a wrist injury, so I think he's going to be out a couple of weeks. Geno surprised me last year. I don't think he's going to have the same caliber season as he did last year, but I don't think he has to. I really don't think Geno needs to have an insane season for this team to make the wild card. I honestly think they're going to be fighting for the NFC West. I think this is a really good Seahawks team. Kenneth Walker, hopefully he's going to be healthy this year. I know he's back. He was injured last season. They still have great weapons in DK and Tyler Lockett. Their cornerbacks are insanely good. I think you can pencil him in for the playoffs. And Pete Carroll's a great coach. New England, potential wild card. It's a tough division, AFC East. They're like the fourth best team in the East, which is going to make it very hard to make the playoffs. You still have Bill Belichick, so I'm not going to count him out. But if they were coached by an average coach, I would have them as missing the playoffs. But because they have Bill, I'm going to keep them in potential wild card. They just don't have a lot of offensive weapons. Their defense is going to be good. Defensive front is good. Their secondary is good. They just added Gonzalez in the draft. But it's a really tough division. Browns, I'm going to have missing the... I'm going to have a potential wild cards. I predicted them to take fourth in the AFC North, but it's a very talented Browns team. Like, the roster, top to bottom, is very good. But Deshaun Watson did leave a bad taste in everyone's mouth after last season, but I expect him to bounce back. People forget Deshaun Watson 3 years ago was a top 5 quarterback in this league. No doubt about it. He took a lot of time off football, came back late in the season, wasn't his best. Actually wasn't good at all. I just think having this full offseason, I think he's going to be back. I really do think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback this season. This Browns team is stacked. Like, their offensive line is so good. Nick Chubb, arguably the best running back in the game. Amari Cooper's still good. Defense is loaded. I just think there's a good chance they make the playoffs. But it is tough. They have the Ravens and the Bengals, so I will see. Texans, number 1 pick contention, but they don't have their pick, so they can't get the number 1 overall pick. But they're still going to be bad. It's unfortunate C.J. Stroud went to the Texans because their offense is awful. Like, he just does not have weapons. I think Nico Collins is his number 1 wide receiver. John Mechie, it's just not very good. He has Dameon Pierce, but Dameon Pierce, average running back. Their defense is bad. They did have Will Anderson. I expect him to be pretty good. Defensive Rookie of the Year is my guess for him. But that's still not going to win you games in the NFL. I think they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league this season. Chiefs, Super Bowl contender. Don't need to speak much about that. Cowboys playoff team, I think you could pretty much lock them in for the playoffs. They're a very good regular season team. I think they're going to have 12 wins. They're a very good team in general. And a lot of people shit on the Cowboys. I know that they've been kind of first round exits, although last year they were second round exits. They did win the wild card round. But there's a lot of teams that don't make the championship game. Like, they were a top 4 team in the NFC last season. That's not something to laugh about. That's still very good. And I expect them to be in the same position last year, which is top 4 in the NFC. So I'm going to put them in the playoffs, but I just don't think they're better than the 49ers or the Eagles. Like, I don't see them walking into Santa Clara or the Link and beating either of those teams. Chargers playoff team, they're going to get the wild card. They're not beating the Chiefs out. They're very talented. Herbert's too talented to not make the playoffs. I don't think they'll win a game, but I do think they'll be in the same position as last year, which is a playoff team. Jets, I think they make the playoffs. Their team is super loaded on defense, which I think is enough. Like, their quarterback play was so bad last year, and they still almost made the playoffs. I don't have them winning the East, but I have them making the playoffs. They're just too talented. And Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. Like, he's still top 7 quarterback in the NFL. Debate where you want him. 4 through 7, I don't care. He's in there, though. He's a vet. He's been there. Garrett Wilson is insane. He's a top 15 wide receiver. And Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook's an incredible backfield. They're just too talented to not make it. Carolina, potential wild card. I really like the defense. The offensive weapons aren't my favorite, but they're there. I like their coach, Frank Reich. Bryce Young, I actually think, is going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year just because I think he's in a good situation in Carolina, although his weapons aren't that good. With Adam Thielen, he does have Miles Sanders, who's all right. I think they potentially make it just because the South is really wide open with the Saints, Panthers, and Falcons. Very young division, it's open, so I think there's a chance they do win the South. Titans, don't sleep on the Titans. The Titans were a team that actually started the season pretty well last year, and then injuries derailed them. They had so many injuries, which kind of knocked them out of the playoffs. I just smacked my desk. Mike Vrabel's still a great coach in this league. The AFC South still has the Texans and the Colts, which I think the Titans beat out. And then people brag about the Jags and stuff like that. The Jags weren't that great last year. They barely got into the playoffs. And they mainly got into the playoffs because the Titans fell off. They barely beat a Josh Dobbs-led Titans team. It took like a pick six or a fumble for six to beat them and to make the playoffs. I don't think the Jags are that much better than the Titans. Like, Titans are a team with not a lot of talent, but like Vrabel gets the most out of them. And I just think they compete. And it's tough to put a team away that competes like they do. They're not as talented as the Jags, but they compete, and I think they're going to fight hard next season. Jaguars, I'll put them as a playoff team. I know I just said don't sleep on the Titans. They could give the Jags a run for their money, but I do think the Jags would get the wild card if they don't win. And I do think they win the South, but I don't think it's not a lock. Jags are very talented. I think Calvin Ridley's a bigger addition than people realize. I think he's great. Last time we saw Calvin Ridley, he was fantastic, but that was 2 seasons ago. This team's good. Doug Peterson's a great NFL coach. He's top 10. Trevor Lawrence is just going to get better. I had them in the playoffs. And then the Colts, finally. I want to wrap this up because it's been going on for a little longer than I wanted it to. I had them missing the playoffs. They're just not good enough, especially with Jonathan Taylor holding out, or at least on the PUP list, so he's going to miss the first 4 weeks. And then I expect them to trade him. I just don't like what's being stirred up in Indianapolis right now with their front office, with Ballard and Jim Irsay. Anthony Richardson, a rookie. I know he's super talented. He went 4th overall, I think. Shane Steichen, I like him. He was an Eagles offensive coordinator last season. I just don't think there's enough for this Colts team to make the playoffs. I don't think it's their season. I think you want Anthony Richardson to flash, show you something, show you why you drafted him 4th overall. And then in 2 years, prepare to, go all in. Once you know that you have your quarterback, once you know he's your franchise quarterback, then you can put your chips all in on him, get him some more weapons, invest in him like the Eagles did with Jalen Hurts. But for this season, I don't see them making the playoffs. But that's going to wrap it up for my Week 1 rankings, my tiers for Week 1 of the NFL season. Once again, I'm so excited for the season to start. I can't wait. Let me know who you guys are rooting for this season. Who's your favorite team? And then also on Friday, I'm going to be releasing my predictions for every game. I can't wait. Football's finally here. I appreciate you guys watching, and I will see you in the next one.